Good evening, everybody. All right, again, good evening, everybody. Sorry about our tardiness. We just wanted to make sure we had a quorum so everything can get done as planned. This is the Southwick Conservation Commission meeting dated June 21st, 2020. It is 6:10 p.m. and we are meeting via hybrid here in the town hall as well as those people on Zoom. Just a note, we are recording this meeting, so if anybody's recording it, or if you don't want to be recorded, you can drop off, but it is being recorded. So just looking around the room, we have Commissioner Jerry Patria here, Commissioner Brian Drennan, Commissioner Marissa Obregon-Cook here, and myself, Dave McWilliams. So we do have a quorum and we can move forward. So why don't we start off with a review of the minutes from our last meeting?
We noticed under NOI 141 for Congamon Road, Congamon is misspelt. There's an extra O.
Catch.
And then under that same heading, where it says there was no change in the building roof runoff, which was approved by the planning board, roof fun off.
It was a fun off.
I know, I like that
That was
terminology.
intentional.
It sounds a lot better.
Mr. Eggleston's gonna have a very fun roof.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
it was in the plans.
It's gonna be fun over there.
Oh, we missed it.
It's just,
You missed it.
no, it's just a typo in the minutes.
Yeah. Anybody notice anything else? Because I did not.
Looks good to me. I'll move to accept the minutes as corrected.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So Marissa,
Aye.
Dave McWilliams, aye. So we are accepting the minutes of June 6th. Do we have anybody either in person or online that has any public comments? Okay. Nobody online has raised their hand?
Not that I could see. A raised hand will come right here, right?
Yeah, I think you can see it down.
Okay.
Brian, do you have anything for the group?
Yeah, at this time, I'd like to step down as the vice chair for the time being.
Okay, appreciate that. Brian and I have spoken extensively about that and understanding what his schedule looks like. Certainly appreciate that, Brian, you know. So with that being said, I would like to nominate Marissa to step on as vice chair of the committee. Does anybody have an objection?
I'd like to second it.
Brian?
Third.
I'll abstain.
I'll abstain. All right,
You can't because you're the fourth in the quorum.
Oh,
Yeah.
darn, okay.
you better vote yes.
Yes, I
Okay.
suppose so.
And I vote yes as well, so
Thank
it's
you.
unanimous.
Thank you.
Marissa, thank you for taking on that responsibility.
Thank you for the
Congratulations.
nomination.
All right. We're going to jump right in to our first hearing. And the first hearing is a continuation for 138 R Hillside Road. I'm assuming, Ryan, you're here on behalf of the applicant?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Ryan Nelson on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Katsanakis. Last time we spoke, we reviewed the plans, and we had provided a revised set that addressed the town comments. Mr. Randy Brown at that time at last meeting, we didn't have confirmation from him, but now we do have those comments from him from an email, I believe on June 17th. So let me pull those up. So on Friday, June 17th, Randy Brown sent an email saying the following: DPW reviewed the revised plans for 138 R Hillside Road dated 6/2/2022 as prepared by R. Levesque Associates and provides the following comments. 1, the revised plans included a new note on sheet C3 indicating that all lots shall infiltrate roof water. This note should be supplemented with a detail and or more information on how the infiltration system should be sized. So my coworker Philippe, he added a note on sheet C3 has been updated to include language to size the infiltration structures for the 1-inch rainfall event. Additionally, a drywall detail has been added to the plans on sheet D2. Randy Brown's second comment, the revised plans included a new note on sheet C3 indicating that the open space easement should be lined with boulders. The size and spacing of the boulders should also be noted on the plans. So the plans have been updated to call out the access easement shall be lined with 24 to 36 inch diameter boulders placed 50 feet on center along the length of the easement. Additionally, the note included language to maintain a minimum 16-foot wide path such that maintenance vehicles can access the basin. Then the third comment, DPW previously noted a concern about the slope of several driveways, in particular lots 1, 2, and 3. The driveways as shown on the revised plans still does not meet the standards of the driveway bylaw, which state a max slope of 2% for the first 25 feet of the driveway. RLA's response to this item was that the driveways are shown schematically on these plans and the final driveway locations would be addressed for each individual lot upon development. DPW does not feel that the town should be endorsing and stamping a plan with these driveways as currently shown. Doing so would imply that the driveways are acceptable as shown. Either the driveway should be removed from this plan or the grading should be modified to accommodate driveways that meet the standards of the driveway bylaw. So the driveways have been removed from this latest revised plan set, and a note on sheet C3 has been added to ensure that each lot is required to provide a plot plan to demonstrate compliance with any applicable regulations. So,
Okay, Brett, can you pull up that C3, please, so we can take a look at it?
yep. Right here. So this addresses two of the comments about the roof runoff and infiltration, and then this is the driveway note. House shape and location shown here on our schematic. Each lot shall require the creation of a plot plan to demonstrate compliance with any and all town regulations, including driveway grades. And then we obviously eliminated the proposed driveways shown on the lots because those are subject to change in the future.
Okay. Oh, it does look like you addressed all of DPW's concerns,
Yep.
and as such, you addressed, I guess, any concerns that I would have. Does anybody else on the board have any questions, comments, concerns for Ryan on the project?
You had mentioned on the 50-foot buffer, you're putting all the boulders on that area on every property, or the ones that are applicable. Okay. I can't really see the map too well, so kind of far away from it, but is that what's going on?
The boulders in that Randy Brown mentioned,
The
or
monuments, yeah,
so that's along the easement for it to get to the stormwater basement. So there's an easement corridor from the end of the cul-de-sac to the basin. So those boulders would be lining the boundary of that easement.
So there's no 50-foot buffer zone in that property.
Well, there are, but these lots aren't necessarily laid out. This is for the development.
Yes, yes. So they're not necessary in this case to have that kind of.
Well, we want to notate where they are.
Right. Normally we do that with some sort of monument.
Right, so the development
Put it out
of
there, you know.
the development of an individual lot in the future would need a new NOI. So at that point, you know,
Okay,
could
all right.
do the typical monumentation like we've been doing for single family homes.
And so this is just encompassing the project and not.
Yes, just the roadway and the stormwater area.
Gotcha, okay. I'm good.
Anybody else?
Dave, I had a question. Dennis
Go
Clark.
ahead, Dennis.
Is there an operations and maintenance plan included for the stormwater with this?
Yes, it was part of the stormwater drainage report. I can bring that up if you guys like to see it.
You have it.
As long as we,
Yep, give me 1 second.
Did Randy approve it?
Yes, that was part of our original submittal.
So does Randy's approval suffice for you, Dennis?
Yes.
Okay, so Ryan, I guess don't go chasing that down.
Okay,
All right, any other questions? If there's no other questions or comments, I will take a motion on the project.
Move to
No.
close the hearing.
Close hearing.
Right,
Move to close the hearing.
I hear a second.
Okay.
Ryan seconds, Marissa,
Aye.
Dave, aye. Okay. I make a motion on the project now, sorry.
I'll make a motion to move forward with this project.
Marissa makes a motion to approve the project. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Jerry seconds, Brian?
Aye.
Dave McWilliams, aye. Ryan?
Any order of conditions on that, Dave, or anything?
The boulders.
Well, I think we would go with the standard order of conditions on the project itself. It seems as though we will address the individual properties once we get the NOIs on those. What were you thinking of anything else with a bond? Obviously, I would go with a $10,000 bond. Any comments?
That works for you. That's fine.
Okay. So just amend the motion to add the order of conditions, standard order of conditions, and $10,000 surety bond.
All right, I'll amend my motion and make an amended motion to approve this with the standard order of conditions and a $10,000 bond.
I'll second that.
Aye. All right. Moving on. Our next public hearing is an NOI continuation for 141 Congamon Road. Ryan, I note that you're probably here for the applicant. Correct?
yes,
And just note, Mr. Eggleston is present in the audience here in Town Hall as well.
okay. So last time we had met, there were a couple concerns or clarifications that were to be made on the plan. We'll start first with Mr. Randy Brown's comments, his evaluation of the stormwater system. So to refresh everyone, there's 2 existing catch basins within the parking lot area. It was his recommendation, and we've shown it on these revised plans, to replace those catch basins with hooded deep sump catch basins to provide further water quality treatment before sending that stormwater into the town drainage. So we've added the note that those catch basins are to be replaced, and we added a deep sump hooded catch basin detail to sheet 2 of the plan set. We also revisited the bank stabilization measures that are proposed between the deck area and the shoreline. So as you guys had seen out there, the soils are sandy and the wave action is cutting and eroding the soils below the deck area at the rear of the building. So what we formerly were proposing was stone, but we're omitting that. And now we are going with more of a softer, greener approach, which includes additional plantings, so more plantings along that grass buffer strip. And then for stabilization, what we're proposing is a product made by Filtrex called a Green Locks. If I go to sheet 3, you can kind of see a detail of what this is. So it's a mesh sock that's filled with a media that is pre-seeded, and these tubes or these socks are wrapped in a geotextile fabric and anchored to the soil. So this would be layered, on top of and adjacent to the bank, and then it would sprout vegetative plants out of the sock. And then we would put the plantings, those shrubs, immediately up gradient of that. So the fabric that holds these socks together, we think would also provide a lot more wave resistance along the shoreline, and then give the chance for some plants to really stabilize along that bank. So we're proposing to do that in this hatched area right here. So this is the area below the deck at the rear of the building, which was very limited in access and what can be done here. So then the area to the north of that, to the deck, those trees would all remain. So I believe one of the commission members at the last meeting asked that the existing trees be shown on the plan. So we've located the trees, maple and oaks on this side. So north of the deck, all of these mature existing trees would remain. And then the only trees we'd be taking down are 1 and possibly 2, depending on the root structure, existing maple trees in the area of the comp storage excavation on the base of that slope. So no other large trees aside from those 2 would be occurring.
Would you leave the root structures in place even if you took the trees down?
Yes, so we probably may have to dig out a part of it depending on what we run into when we regrade that hillside for the comp storage. But ideally, they would be left in place if possible. And then
So
we'd be
Yeah.
installing shrubs in that area if they're removed. So in that area, we are installing service berries, white birch, and blueberries, and we did increase the number of plantings south of the decks in that area.
That's the tree that's kind of overtaken with vines and,
Yes, there's tons of bittersweet vines in both of those maple trees. Yep, and they're a very contorted, distorted shape growing out towards the sunlight.
yeah, not very attractive.
Ryan, are you removing then the oak
Shame
tree
the tree.
that's closer to the handicap parking that was kind of adjacent to the building?
Yes.
Okay. I thought that was the one.
Yes, sorry, I forgot about that one. You're right. That was hiding on me. That was right here. Yes.
Mr. Eggleston, if you're gonna speak, you have to identify yourself.
Mr. Eggleston, 141 Congamon Road.
Thank you.
It's underneath. Sorry.
No, no worries.
Didn't mean to.
So Ryan, I sent out a link to the commission members regarding that material that you're using along the shoreline so that everybody had an opportunity to take a look at it, as well as the updated plans. The roof runoff, was anything decided? I thought I saw something that you guys had made a decision on that. Where does that stand?
So yeah, we'd be happy to provide dry well infiltration chambers for the building. We think that hopefully that can be something that can be conditioned.
Okay.
Depending on availability, we're not sure what type or manufacturer, but something we'd be willing to do.
Dennis, I know you had big concerns on that. What are your thoughts?
I think that this plan looks a lot better than the last one we saw.
Is that infiltration, is that something, the infiltrators, we can put in the order of conditions?
It is, but like in the last notice of intent you approved, like Randy says, it's good to have the specifications there. So it's not really abstract, decide later on how it's going to be infiltrated. Now everybody got the information that the stormwater does eventually drain into the lake. So we had some incorrect information last time. I had a question for Ryan. Does that water go through a base separator before it discharges, Ryan?
It does not, no.
All the water that goes into the lake is supposed to have, as far as I know, has base separators or should have base separators. Are you sure it doesn't go into it? Because we'll be draining all the parking lot without separating the oils from it. Everything.
So,
I mean, we did 319 grants, so we had many base separators, or they were called base savers at the time. Specifically to make sure that it was separated before the water went into the discharge, went into the lake.
So I'm not aware of any oil water separators on site. I mean, maybe there's something farther down the line in town drainage. I don't know. I doubt it. But I would think the hooded catch basins would provide a similar service if you have, oil floating on the top, and then if you have
Well,
that.
it's just been a standard that we've used for many years now that, we've had those separators put in. I'd be surprised if there wasn't one there, but I'd like to confirm that with somebody. I don't know if John Goddard is he the one that's providing the information now?
I don't know, we were going by Randy Brown's comments, so.
And the other question I had was, it appears that the notice of intent has been revised for the Chapter 91 license.
Yep, I was getting to that, yep.
Okay, Coach, I'll let you go with that then.
Oh,
Sure.
hold on, let's not change subjects yet, okay? Because Dennis, you just brought up something that hasn't been discussed before, and we talked about this stormwater at the last meeting, right? So the fact that it's coming up now, I have concerns with. So Ryan, can you explain to us exactly what the expectation is of the drains that Randy is requiring?
So the commission asked Randy to look at the stormwater for this project, and he had one comment by email, and that was to suggest replacing the existing catch basins with a hooded deep sump catch basin. So that's what we've done. There was no prior discussion of an oil water separator being required, and he didn't mention that.
Can you explain how that works, the deep sump?
Sure. So on sheet 2, there's a detail of the catch basin. So this is the top view. There's a grate in the center, and then this is a cross-section view here. So water comes in through the grate, goes down, and as it collects, it rises up, right? And there's a hood so think of it like a pipe with an elbow, and the elbow is 90 degrees facing down. And the pipe lip on that elbow is lower than the invert going out. So as water rises up, oils and floatables collect on the surface, but they can't go out. They can't leave the catch basin through the invert because there's like a hood. So the water, the floatables, can't submerge and go up and over. So it's essentially skimming off any pollutants or minimizing that.
So effectively, that is a type of separator.
It certainly helps, absolutely.
Well, it's not technically a separator, no. It does help, but it's not
Okay.
not a
Probably a
separator.
different definition for a full-blown separator.
And in terms of.
Yeah, well, there's two chambers in a separator. It's a different type of structure. But anyway, I'm not that, I don't know, you'd have to talk to Dick Grinnells about that, because we've been installing, must have probably a dozen base separators on the lake now.
And we're not clear if there's subsequent filtration or separation once it goes into the public waterway or public piping. I mean.
So that's what I was asking.
So Dennis, you thought that there might be one on the property currently?
Not on the property, but in the town. The town just redid that road. They put in a couple of base separators, and I thought John Goddard had mentioned that I'm not sure though if he was referring to all of the water coming off the runoff going into it, or if there's another, since Randy's initial comments, we thought that the water all went uphill up to Miller Road. But I don't know. Seems like that'd be, seeing the town is going to be responsible for the runoff or the parking area. It seems like it'd be something we really want to make sure that isn't going to be a problem in the future that taxpayers will have to pay for.
Right, and I'd like clarification in terms of what treatment, if there is any, because I think that would kind of disentangle what the responsibility of the applicant is versus the responsibility of the town. I'm just curious to know what's going on in surrounding areas, like what's going on with the drains over at Saunders. I mean, is there a system that connects all of these, and then there's a pool where it does kind of get filtrated before it goes into the lakes? I mean, in that case, it's almost like a moot point to be discussing this with reference to this application. If there is
Yeah,
you know?
so where are you seeing other of these being used, Dennis? I mean, there's a lot of parking lots, right? There's the boat ramps are both parking lots. Are we using them there? I mean, I would just be
Yeah, the
curious.
boat ramp, yeah, the boat ramp has them. The 319 grants we've gotten over the past 20 years have put in quite a few of them. You know, and I also like to see the infiltration on a plan. It would be a lot better than, you know, speculating on it later down the road. Sabrina would have to, or somebody would have to make sure that that happened in the right manner. If it's on the plan, it'd be written in stone pretty much, or written on paper, but and plus seeing this was a revised notice of intent that just went to the for chapter 91. We should look at the land underwater calculations that were done also, because that's new. There was no land underwater included on the original notice of intent.
So, all right, so as far as let's chunk it, right? So there's the infiltrator that needs to be addressed. We want to see that on the plan. We got to find out from town whether or not there's an oil water separator on the line before it goes into the lake. Okay, fine. Those two put to bed. As far as the erosion control on the shoreline, before we're bouncing back and forth 1,000 times on this thing, is there any objection to what they're using for erosion control on the shoreline?
I did have one question. What's the lifespan based off of this particular scenario, Ryan, for using these?
What specifically are we talking about?
The green lock, the sock system, based on the specs with this lake, the kind of erosion that's going on, the water movement, how long can Mr. Eggleston expect these to work?
So the material is biodegradable. So the idea is that eventually it all becomes just one living root mass. But obviously, you know, the mesh in the fabric is just temporarily until it gets established.
Would
So
that be enough to hold the
Right.
waves back?
For long term?
Ryan?
Relying on the root system, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if that would do the
I
job.
mean, it's better than what's there now. We're trying to improve it.
What's there now?
Do we have any examples of
Yeah,
other
I can-
places where it's influenced?
I can bring up some pictures, and we also are using that on the Westfield River restoration project at the Toccoa Country Club. We had Mass DEP involved, NHESP, and Jack Eaton from Filtrex, the company, is a rep. He was on site. I met with him several times there. Just give me one moment. I'll bring you up something.
Something that was part of what you should have received today.
Sure, bring it up.
It just kind of looks like a waddle to me.
If he said he sent some files to you. We're looking at one of these two materials.
Okay, so these two right here,
Yes, sir.
may I mark it?
No, sure. And the life expectancy that I'm expecting is upwards of 5 years.
Thank you.
Well, within that time, we expect it's going to grow.
Right. I mean, in
Good.
5 years, you can get a lot of good,
Southwick's first mangroves.
yeah.
All right. Ryan, you've got your screen up. Thank you.
Yep. So if anyone's interested, this is that link I had sent. Here's a better picture of what that looks like in its early stages. So you have your socks that are wrapped in a durable mesh fabric that holds it in place, and then they're anchored into the soil. And then there's gaps for the seeds and plants to emerge out. So it all creates this one connected kind of barrier.
They grow well in sand? Is that pretty much what's there?
You can get different seed mixes depending on your environment. So that'd be something that have to be specified with the company when you order it.
All right. So Ryan, thank you.
Mhm.
Why don't you move on to the amended NOI in the chapter 91?
Sure. So earlier this month, we had submitted a Chapter 91 application for this project. as one of DEP's preliminary review comments, they asked us to be sure to include any land underwater disturbances for the project. And so that would arise from the proposed concrete anchors that would be sitting on the bottom of the lake, and then ropes or chains cross-tied to the docks. So we, just for a conservative calculation, figured concrete blocks at the biggest would be 3 feet by 3 feet. And we estimated 30 of them. We probably don't need that many, but they gave us 270 square feet. And just to be conservative, we're asking for 300 square feet of land underwater disturbance. And if one reads the performance standards for that resource area, you're allowed up to 5,000 square feet or 10%. So these would be concrete blocks set at periodic intervals along the docks at the bottom of the lake.
Okay, I think we understand what those are. Dennis, do you have any comments, questions, issues with that? I know you and I have had conversations about the proposed type of dock usage.
Well, I just wonder, does it show on the plan where the cement blocks are gonna go, just for reference?
We don't have the exact location shown, no. Up to the dock installer as to, you know, the specifics on where they think they should go.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it was gonna be sufficient for what you need.
Yeah, I think we overestimated, so I think what we're asking for should be enough.
And those are gonna be removable docks, is that the plan?
Correct, yes.
So when they remove the docks, is there some kind of plan in effect how you're gonna do that without creating further disturbance?
So it's would be, like Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, but it'd be my assumption, obviously the anchors would stay, and then the ties and the rope would get removed. And then Ken would either have to remove the docks on shore or float them somewhere else to take them out.
You would do that by hand? You would have people go out there and pick them up by hand and carry them?
I'm not sure what his game plan for that is.
You have a comment, Mr.
Kind of,
Eggleston?
kind of would make a difference. I mean, it's gonna get machinery down there. Crane.
Dennis, Mr. Eggleston's gonna reply to that. Hold on.
Our plan is, our new plan is to take the docks out through the entrances to the docks and place them on the wooden docks outside the building for the winter. They would be hand removed
Up to the deck, you mean?
up to the deck,
Okay,
onto the deck. So carry them right up and bring them over to this section of the decking, right here. And pile them up, you know, as high as they go. That way we're not interfering with the main building. Maybe some people will still want to be coming out here, but taking these docks and stacking them over here by hand. Each one of these things is about 200 pounds, no problem for 4 guys to pick them up and stack them up. And that, when I say that's a new plan, I spoke with the dock people today, late today, and asked them about that feasibility, and they said they put docks in every year and take docks out every year for a lot of people. So it's very easy for them to do that. However, somebody said something about removing the lines. That is not something that they said would be done, because that would require a diver every year to come down and try and find those blocks.
Right.
They were talking about putting little floating buoys.
Buoys, yeah. That was my next question.
Yeah, we cannot. Everyone said can't.
They call them ice bars.
Yeah,
So you're gonna have a good amount of, you know, one for each block, kind of floating all winter, trapped in the ice and stuff.
well, one for each block.
Yeah. Okay,
one for each block.
just so you know, those things get moved around a lot by the ice. We do that on our association.
Right.
beach. And we put markers there so we know where to attach next year.
Yes,
So
The ice can,
the ice kind of
it drifts a
takes it
little
for a
bit.
ride and, you know, you may have to replace it the next year, just so you know.
the cement blocks.
Yes, they move with the ice. Just, you know, just a heads up.
Yeah, I know the buoy to my raft in front of my home
Hmm.
never moves.
No, oh, okay,
Same place every year
okay.
for the last 20 years.
Yeah, maybe you're in a good
It's gonna
spot.
be a lot
Yeah.
heavier than that. The only thing holding that is a 10-pound bucket of cement.
Okay.
All right, so moving forward, it looks like there's still a couple of open items, right? Hate to keep moving this on, but Ryan, we want to see the infiltrator on the plans. Okay, whatever the infiltration plan is, so if you can mark that on the plans. that'd be great. I will reach out to John Goddard. I suggest you do the same, but let's find out about the oil water separator, whether or not there's one between this property and where the water hits the lake, okay?
And if there's not, what is the, I guess, the consensus?
Well, it sounds as though that it's something that's being done on all large parking lots on the lake already. So I guess our recommendation is let's go with one of those. I don't know. This is news to me. I don't know the cost, design or what have you, but I would suggest looking into it. Dennis, you said you've done these previously with grants. I mean, is it a big undertaking? I'm brand
Well,
new.
let's get the information on the table. We've had some bad information. Let's get the real information before we start speculating on what we need or if we need it. Like I say, there could be one there already, so it'd be nice to have that information in front of you.
All right, so we'll find out from, well, we know there's not one on the property because I think the applicant would know it. Well, maybe not. All right, I'll talk to Goddard. All right, so,
Did we ask for a continuation?
we're gonna have to, yes. So Ryan, I'm gonna imagine we want to continue this.
I'll leave that up to Ken.
I don't want to keep moving.
I know you probably don't, but I don't want the vote not to go in your,
This is the question I asked at the end of the last meeting.
I understand.
Making sure that we covered all the bases. Nothing new is gonna come up.
I'm trying the same thing because, I don't want to keep having Groundhog Day here either. There's a lot going on and I don't want to keep talking about the same stuff over and over again. So we're gonna get this thing right.
Just another 2 weeks.
I understand. Believe
Next
me.
meeting, Jim?
July 18th.
So,
18th is your next meeting?
yeah,
It says
4
August
weeks.
1st.
Yep.
That's our next meeting, August 1st.
no,
July 18th.
At the bottom of this agenda, it says August 1st.
We lied.
Okay, so we'll have to change
July 18th
that.
it is.
Yeah.
Again, can I ask the same question I asked last time?
You can't get a partial, I'm sorry. Is that what you're looking for?
I can't start doing anything, taking down some shrubbery, building my handicap thing. I mean, we're talking about water filtration. We're not gonna do anything out there. We're not gonna be dealing with the parking lot. I'm talking about near the shore, building the handicap ramp, getting the deck ready. Maybe even opening up the restaurant much quicker. I just would like to get some work started, and I think that we're pretty isolated to two things. One new one and one old one, infiltration. That, right now, the water's going somewhere. We're not opening until it's done, but we still have.
The problem that we have, Ken, when we do something like that, is if we don't have a plan ironed down and you deviate from the plan, then the town is held liable. And we're just not in a position to do that.
We can't put conditions on it that we're not.
Not until we have to close the entire hearing. We have to vote on the entire project. We can't piecemeal it. I wish I could offer you a better answer. I just don't have one right now. So it comes down to, we can go back and forth just like we did last time. But it comes down to either you can make us vote on it. That as the applicant, you can make us vote on the project as it stands. But if we vote the project down, then you're starting from scratch again. And we don't think that's in your best interest. That's why
No, so it is.
I would say, I would ask for the continuance if I were the applicant in your shoes.
There's no special possible meeting in between. We can present this to you in a couple of days.
Well, this is a special meeting specifically because the two projects we just talked about were big enough to warrant something in between. Whether or not there's going to be another special meeting between now and then, I can't say. We don't have enough members of the board here to determine whether we're not going to have another meeting. I can propose it to them, but I'm not going to make any commitment right now.
Dave, just a question. Does the fact that a big issue was addressed tonight and it's now in the plans and we've seen, you know, the erosion control is what I'm referring to, is there, we wouldn't be able to approve that then because that has been amended and that is being
But-
presented right now. That is a tangible change. Just out of curiosity, is that something?
But we
could-
can't approve parts of the
Right.
project. We have to approve the project.
Even if some parts are cemented, are looking perfect according to us on the plans, that's not something we could piecemeal.
No.
All right, it's
No.
good to know.
I would have hoped that too for Mr.
Yeah,
Eggleston. but
exactly, for his sake. I
Yeah.
mean, it
Yeah.
seems like
I
every
don't want to
meeting.
keep stalling, but
Could we
Is-
also, sorry, could we also clarify just in terms of the responsibility, because it's not clear to me, just based off of the information we've gotten from DPW, whose responsibility exactly is in terms of the water treatment and at what point it's getting treated, just so that we as a commission going forward are educated in terms of whether this is something that should hold the process up, or if it's something where there is existing treatment in surrounding areas. I think that's a really key fact, because that could hold people up unnecessarily if it's not, if the onus isn't on them, in which case that would be bad, but
Right, so if I could add to that, thank you, Melissa. Our stormwater system is existing. The new or the proposed project in the expansion is not large enough to require a stormwater management permit. So at the last meeting, you guys had asked Randy Brown to take a look at this. He provided his recommendations, and that was only the catch basin replacement. We've done that. And now additional measures are being requested. That is, I don't believe within the, you know, it's not within the scope of what we originally talked about last week. We don't require a stormwater management permit, and the improvements we're making are an improvement over existing conditions in terms of the stormwater system.
Well, the DEP asked the same question, and I believe that the water being discharged into a resource area definitely changes that scenario. I'd have to disagree with you on that. It's you're adding additional areas, impervious areas. You're adding a lot. It's not a pre-existing. Just using the same system.
But we're not increasing it by an acre, and we don't have any new additional point source discharges, so we don't trigger Mass DEP stormwater standards.
Right.
That's
So-
what I was also told 6 months ago. Under the acre, we shouldn't even be talking about stormwater.
I understand, but even the infiltrator, even if the oil water separator is off the table, it's the infiltrator not being on the plan would bring this back to us again anyways. It needs to be on the plan.
And what are we designing to? How much rain is it supposed to collect? Does the commission know?
I think similar to the boat ramps.
What is that?
Mr. Granels would know. I'm not exactly sure, but
Well,
But we're not engineers on the commission, but you guys are. And
But
have
we
engineers
have
working
to
for the
know
town.
what standard to design to. How, if there's no standard for us to design to, then we're just winging it.
are we talking about getting an infiltrator with a base separator?
Well, first off, the infiltrator I'm talking about is the roof runoff.
Yeah.
Which, Ryan, you said
I'm
you
sorry. My bad.
you were going to move forward with, it just wasn't on the plan. That's what I'm talking about, is we need to see the infiltration system for the roof runoff, which you already agreed you're gonna move forward with, but it's not on the plan.
We
So
have
that
no, we're not opposed to to doing it, we just need to know, how are we sizing it? How big does it need to be? How many do there need to be? There's no standards for that.
Well,
We could always hire a third-party engineer to come up with all that information. If you can't measure how much impervious surface, if you can't figure it out, you don't have the program in your computer to figure it out, we can always hire somebody that does.
Dennis, we have the program and so would a third-party review, but what standard would they be evaluating it to? How much rain? What type of storm intensity?
Well, you know, that's difficult to say because a 100-year storm happens every 10 years now. I mean, you know, you have to use some common sense on this. You know, how much is it extra is it going to generate? You should be able to figure that out.
Ryan, I'm comfortable with the folks over at Levesque being able to come up with that number.
What number? We don't have a goal. There's no regulations or standards that telling us how much volume we have to provide for.
Average written somewhere. I hate to mention it, but like in the Farmer's Almanac, they always talk about average rainfall for a certain area. We have any data like that that we could reference? You know, call it a typical, you know, rainfall year type of thing, and use that as a benchmark.
Yeah. Listen, Ryan, we're not gonna run this all night. I mean, you're the paid consultants. You've got to figure out what an appropriate infiltration system for that would be. We need to move on to other things. I'm sorry, but you know, we just need to move on.
I agree. I mean, we'll show something, but I just want to let the commission know that, you know, we play by the rules, and if those
Okay.
rules aren't in place, we just wing it otherwise. So
I
Understood.
appreciate that. I'm making a motion. I would like to hear a motion to continue the hearing.
I'll move to continue the hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Marissa?
Aye.
Dave McWilliams, aye. Continued. All right, new business. Request for a certificate of compliance for 8 Reservoir Road. Dennis, Sabrina, and I went out and looked at the property. This certificate of compliance is, how old was it, Dennis? Decades?
Yeah, it's a few years, a few decades.
Okay. So, based on the work that they've done, the plantings that they have along the buffer zones, I would recommend that we offer them their certificate of compliance.
And there was no bond with that, right, Sabrina?
There was, Sabrina, there was no bond for that?
Ooh. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I think we discussed it out there. I don't think it was, but what we can do is we can make a motion to provide them with their certificate of compliance. And if a bond has been paid, then we can get their bond money back. So since I just said all that, that is my motion. Anybody want to second that?
Jeannie, do you have any information?
On what? I don't know what you're talking.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Okay,
8 Reservoir Road, we were just wondering if there was a
Okay.
bond.
we'll check on it. Just make the motion, including the release of the bond, and if there's no bond,
We did, that was the motion.
okey dokey.
Brian?
No, you have to make the motion like you did, Dave, if there is a bond, because remember, Gene, we made a motion to release a bond one time, and there wasn't one. You had to go back to the next meeting to rescind that motion.
Explain that to me again?
You make it, do like you said, if there is a bond, it will be refunded.
Right.
But don't say to refund the bond because we don't know if there is one, so.
No, that's
Justified.
exactly what I said. So I will say it again. Make a motion to agree to the certificate of compliance and to refund the bond should there be a bond.
Right.
So I will take a second.
Second.
Brian?
Aye.
Marissa?
Aye.
Excellent. I need to get signed off on.
Mhm.
No worries. Right. Next thing, Oak Ridge Estates preliminary talk on proposed crossing impacting resource area. What do we got here, Sabrina?
Do we have anybody? Mr. Salvini? Who wants to talk?
Yep, good evening. I'm here with Terry Reynolds. And speaking of decades old, Dennis, that's a nice picture. Terry, were you able to send a map?
Mr. Salvini, please identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Steve Salvini from Salvini Associates. I'm a registered land surveyor, and we're working for Oak Ridge Builders on Morton Refining Road for a potential subdivision, and we're here tonight to discuss a potential wetland crossing. The wetland crossing is, in our view, necessary. I think Terry Reynolds could probably talk about that with more background than I can. But the idea is that we would like to cross a wetland. It's part of the, if you remember, Dennis, we did this wetland delineation, and part of it's a wet meadow, very narrow strip on the south side of the property, just north of the Connecticut border, very narrow, and we would like to try to cross that to make a loop road in this property. And I think what I would do is I would turn it over to Terry. If you have the plan that you can share with us.
Yes, I do. So I'm Terry Reynolds, T. Reynolds Engineering. And if you guys don't mind, I'll just put the plan up, and I can describe what's being proposed and so get your folks' impressions. So,
Kind of breaking up a little. Can't hear your words.
sorry, is that better?
Okay.
So what's being proposed here, we've got a subdivision off of Mort Mining Road. It's a loop road. And previously we have a wetland system that was delineated and approved by the commission that runs from the southern end, comes up through these Hayed Meadows down here up into this area. There's a few different ones. There's one here. There's one up in the upland area up in here, and in the back of the property up in here, and then an isolated little wetland right in here. So the way this is laid out, we're proposing for a loop road. This one comes up through non-jurisdictional areas and then comes back down with a wetland crossing right here. And the reason for this is we feel this is the least impactful as opposed to completely trying to avoid it by trying to maybe come over here and ending up with a lot more upgradient impervious area coming down on the resource area. This way we can come across fairly cleanly. We can maintain a connection for the wetland right here and then do some replication down adjacent in this area. Right now, this whole area has been hayed. So it's just it's a wet meadow in the very spring. And as of like right now, it's completely dry. This was so dry that perks were actually done in it. So that's sort of the status of it. But so the intent would be is to come across here. We would create a hydraulic connection so that these can continue to be connected. And then in this area, this whole area could be preserved and allowed to reestablish as a natural buffer zone area with a replication added in adjacent to it. The project itself, the other advantage to having this here is it allows us to separate the stormwater management. So here, just above the buffer zone, we'd have a stormwater management here. And then that would allow us to have another system up in here, central in the property, and then a lower one down in here. So that's the thought process, and just wanting to get a feel from the commission on their thoughts in moving this along.
If I can jump in just to clarify that this has not been submitted yet. we're looking to try to do, the most important part of this is to, obviously, to be able to cross that wetlands with our road. We think that the alternative analysis is defeated by the, what Terry just described as impervious surfaces in the upland. But so what we're really trying to do is we'd like to come in with just the crossing here and see if we could get that approved, because what that does then is lets us know if there's a project here or not. And it would save a lot of wasted time and effort if the commission said, no, we'll never approve something like that. Or if there's credence to what we're saying, and we would like to be able to come in with just a phased notice of intent for that crossing to get that established so that we can then proceed with further design.
I have a question, sir. You mentioned a hydraulic connection. Is that a culvert, or how do you plan on going over that little wetland area with your road?
It would be a culvert.
Okay.
Yeah, mainly for the spring runoff to allow those to continue to be connected, because ultimately the wetland all flows to the south.
Mhm.
Right. And as a surveyor, I kind of speak not fluent environmental, but I can speak some environmental. But Jeff Smith, our environmental scientist, said it's not a channelized flow there. It's really a wet meadow.
It's a seasonal wet area. It comes.
So Dennis and Marissa, you've both been on the property. I've driven by it. I didn't walk it when you guys did it. I mean, does this sound like the segmented or the partition notice of intent, Dennis? What do
I
you
would,
thought?
this looks like the plan that, has been in the works for quite a while. And it looks like the best place for a crossing. And I could see it done in phases, but I couldn't see it done unless the entire subdivision was on the notice of intent and submitted as phases. I couldn't see just doing a crossing without having the entire subdivision included on the plan. Right?
It seems reasonable.
Okay. So I guess that would be what we would recommend, is just coming back with a notice of intent for the project.
Yeah, so our intent really is, it's quite an effort to design, the whole stormwater system. It basically is designing the whole subdivision to, a final design almost. And so that's why we're just trying to get a feel before we go and do that endeavor. So if the commission feels that this is viable, and that, our explanation of our alternatives, it seems reasonable, then that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, so this isn't a formal public hearing, so we're certainly not going to take a vote on it, and we're not going to give any kind of approval, right? We're just looking at what you're proposing right now.
Yep.
But yeah, I think the recommendation is come in with a full notice of intent on the subdivision.
All right, very good.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Right.
All right, I'm going a bit out of order on the new business. I just want to get stuff that has people on the phone, off the phone, or people that are here, out of here, and we can take care of our maintenance stuff. Yeah, so we have a bridge replacement at 326 North Loomis Street. This was requested through the Agricultural Commission for an agricultural exemption. I had a letter from Bert Hanson, Chair of the Agricultural Commission, and Bert is in the audience, so let me just read this into the record. It is dated June 20th, 2022, to John Wally in Southwick, Massachusetts. Dear John, per discussions at a recent Agricultural Commission meeting, I'm writing to document a vote that the commission took relative to your vote to replace, relative to your project to replace a bridge over a perennial brook on your property at 326 North Loomis Street. We understand that because the bridge washed away and was replaced by a temporary bridge, you want to install a permanent bridge so you can properly manage the property. The commission, meaning the Agricultural Commission, voted unanimously that the bridge replacement project is appropriate for an agricultural exemption from the Wetland Protections Act. And we recommend that the Southwick Conservation Commission allow an exception under the town's general legislation, section 182-3B. Please note that this statute does not require written notification to the Conservation Commission before work begins. So. Bert?
Bert Hanson, 153 Morton Vining Road, and I'm here for the Agricultural Commission. I think this is pretty straightforward, similar. I think it was your last meeting. We had a similar kind of project for Dan Cook's property on Henry Road. So it's replacing a bridge that was there. I think that it enables the maintenance of or management of the property, which is in conservation status. So I think Wayne Maggie here, they're also, as part of that project, we're going to be cleaning up. There's debris from the former bridge there. There's concrete culverts that are no longer used, so they're going to be cleaning that all up. So I think it'll be a overall improvement, to the area.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the property. Anybody been out there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did a site visit with Mr. Hanson,
okay,
and yeah, it all looks like it's in order, and I think it would be an improvement as well, in terms of kind of cleaning up some of that debris that's there currently.
And I do just want to make the point that about a quarter of a mile or so further along North Loomis at 370 North Loomis, there was a project with everybody. Several of us here were involved in some communications back and forth about family wanted to put a home up there and put a bridge across the same brook, Shirtlift Brook. But it's a whole different situation there where the brook is much wider. There's perennial wetlands, for several hundred feet. So that's just in our view, this was a different ballgame, even though it's the same brook, a quarter mile away.
right. Okay. Hey, Dennis, so I remember we did this a couple of weeks ago. I don't think it was the last meeting, maybe it was the meeting before. Just remind me, because Agricultural Commission is stating that it's exempt from wetlands protection. Do we still need to vote on this, or is this more informational than anything else?
Just more informational. If they really wanted to cover their butt, they would file a request for determination, and it would be found agriculturally exempt. But that's up to them if they want to do that. They don't have to. I would recommend them to get this project done as soon as possible, because the longer it drags on, the more problems could come up.
Okay, thanks, Dennis.
I think the timetable is July, right? Sometime in July. Yeah.
As time to dry and small.
Right.
Okay. Good deal.
Sounds
Thank
good.
Thank you. All right, next item of business, Anthony Wheeler, request for an erosion control monitor for DEP 292-0402, 194 Granville Road.
Yep.
What do we got?
So Dennis and I went out there on Friday. Their erosion controls look good, so fence. And I guess we just need a motion to accept it as the erosion control monitor. Do I
Yeah.
have that right, Dennis?
Yeah, approve him as the erosion control monitor. And what did you say, once a month for reports,
Yeah.
and then after any?
Yep, once a month, and or after a storm.
Yeah, which
To
is
go.
typical.
Yep.
Is he the property owner? Or is he?
Right now, yep.
Okay. So we need a motion to accept Anthony Wheeler as the erosion control monitor for 194 Granville Road.
I'll move to accept Anthony Wheeler.
Do we have a second? Brian Drennan seconds. Marissa, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dave McWilliams votes aye. All right, So let's go back up a little bit, because I think, are we past anything that we need anybody else?
No, it was up to
Okay.
6:10, so
Okay.
we're past.
All right, so we've gotten notification from the chief of police regarding an abundance of trash up at North Pond. And I've seen the pictures, I've actually walked up there, and it's primarily taking place where the rope swing is, up on top of that plateau. And it seems as though the kids that are going up there are just leaving a hellacious mess, right? And it's something that needs to be cleaned up. I know a couple of people that walk up there and do clean up on a regular basis, just themselves. But we need to put a formalized plan in place. CRC had a meeting last week. They're gonna put together a group of volunteers that are gonna schedule days to go out and clean up the trash. My recommendation, since looking at the conservation restriction, the main entrance to the North Pond property is not under the conservation restriction. So my recommendation is that we put a trash barrel there, right? And then we arrange for a weekly pickup of the trash. Now, I don't necessarily think that's gonna, kids are kids and they're gonna be kids and they're gonna leave trash, but hopefully if there's some place for them to dump it,
Yeah.
it might instill on them that they do some dumping. So I think I want to authorize our group to go out and get a trash can, put it by the kiosk that Andre built, chain it there, get one with a cover, right? And then we'll figure out once a week, we'll have somebody go take that out of there, whether it's the CRC volunteers. I mean, I don't mind swinging by there every time I go to the dump, throwing another barrel in the back of the vehicle. It's no big deal to me. But that is in addition to, we need signage. And, you know, we need to put up signs on the property.
Please use trash receptacle.
Yeah, I mean, you know, coming from a scouting background, the big term that we use, and Brian, I'm sure you've heard it, is leave no trace.
Right.
Right? Take out what you bring in, right? Leave no trace. So I think we need to do information signs that say that. I also think we need signs that say no open fires, because there are open fires that are happening on that property. Both up at a fire ring that they built, which I'm gonna go dismantle and haul out of there. But I've heard there's been people over on the beach area with grills going too, and that's totally unacceptable. So I think a couple of signs saying no open fires, information about taking trash out of there. Russ, I know you're here, you're the acting police commissioner, correct?
Yeah, I got all the phone calls and emails too.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw you were CC'd in on that. I mean, there's only so much we could do with kids. I mean, but we want to give them an opportunity to do the right thing and put it where it belongs.
Yeah, and we tried to get through community preservation signage a couple of years ago.
And we have that. The money's still available.
Okay,
Do you
So-
want to identify yourself,
sorry.
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Fox?
Russell Fox, chairman of the select board town of South.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have the funds that are available for that. That $15,000 CPC grant is still, there's plenty of funds in that. So that's part of what we're looking to do here is the whole trash thing, the sign thing will all come out of that budget. But Sabrina and I have been talking about this since the email came in. And what kind of signs do we want to put in there? And, you know, certainly it's a board decision, looking for recommendations. I mean, we don't want to trash the place by throwing signs everywhere, but I think we need people to understand that there's rules and regulation, and, you know, using that property is a luxury. It's you know, we're fortunate to have it. Let's not ruin it for everybody. The other thing, just so you folks know, is I've been speaking with Frank Solomini from the Environmental Police, who is going out, I think on Sunday, with the sheriff on the boat on the lake. I'm gonna try and jump on board And we're gonna go around and I want to show the sheriff what our concerns are with what's going on the lake. Trash, loud music, not that we have any purview over loud music, but they can see it. But really, trash and open fires, right? We want to make sure that they understand that that is for both. So the plan is to go on Sunday. I'm not sure if that happens. If it does, I will let you guys know. So
Dave, could I interrupt just for a
Sure.
second on the signage?
Yeah.
I think when we were out there with Fish and Game last fall, when I and
Yeah.
other people, they had verbiage, from their signs.
they were gonna get us
Right.
signs. They have not come through.
They can at least give you the verbiage though, probably that would help out, because,
I think one of the things we could do, Russ, is model the signs. I believe there's signs already up at like Granville Gorge.
Yeah.
That kind of outlays all of that. So, and I think that's been approved by the board in the past, so maybe we'll look at that and I'll reach out to Fish and Game as well, but you just, I don't even know if we need to vote on this because the money's already in the budget to use for that, but we're gonna be ordering probably half a dozen signs.
We already have them created. This committee did that more than a year ago.
But where are they?
Just sitting on my desk waiting for somebody to say, this is what we want. I've already sent them to Southwoods. They already did the design.
They just haven't been printed.
No, nobody's ever gone ahead and said, yeah, we want them.
Can I swing by and take a look at those?
Well,
The sign?
it's,
Again?
I can email them.
Yeah,
The proof of the design? Could you
yeah.
send that to us?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not
It's,
ringing any bells of design. I remember discussing it, but I don't remember seeing the design.
yeah,
Yeah,
if you could just
it's-
email that signage out.
Dennis, you remember those signs that you created for Southwoods for the North Pond? I'm hoping.
That was like over a year ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I have it actually.
I told Sabrina to get for you to, I knew you had those. I told her to contact you, so.
All right, let's take
Okay.
another quick look at those and get those printed.
We'll just
out.
maybe have to change the wording.
Yeah.
You know, it's like open at sunrise, close at sunset, no.
Well,
no,
that is a question I had. I mean, and I haven't read through the entire conservation restriction, but so I live right around the corner and I drive by that place all the time and I see cars parked there well after dark. And we have no enforcement authority, right? But I would like to, I don't know if we can put signs that say closed after dark because I don't know what the conservation restriction says because that part is managed by Mass Fish and Wildlife. But if there are no regulations that keep it from being closed after dark, then I think that's something that we put on the sign as well. Because I can imagine who's there after dark are probably a bunch of kids out there pounding beers. I'm not looking at you like that.
I was at one time.
Yeah.
I think we sent those templates to the Fish and Wildlife to get their approval.
And do you recall if we got it?
No.
We'll have to, I don't have access to my old email, so we'll have to get back.
Best
in
friends
touch
with her
them.
now, so we can get that taken care of.
There you go.
All right, so next item is the trail maintenance budget, and that is the money that was put through the CPC.
I was talking about the budget that we get through the town
Oh,
for the land.
well, that's not trail maintenance, that's.
That's
management.
land.
management budget.
I mean, we could talk about trail maintenance budget if you really want to.
So really quick, while we're still on North Pond, and
Yeah.
this would probably come under land maintenance, right?
Mhm.
So there's the mud problem that happens over at the entrance to North Pond, right?
Yep.
I am on the master planning committee with Scott Lamond, who's the owner of Tynick, who is a vendor of the town. And I asked him to swing by and take a look at it, and think what it would take. Does it need grading? Does it need fill or what have you, just to get an idea what needs to get done over there. And he called me and he said, hey, it looks like under both entrances to that parking area, there's culverts and they're blocked up. So I went out there today and I looked at them and they are, the one on the north end, you wouldn't even know there was a culvert there by standing on it. It's, the dirt is level with the ground. So I called Randy Brown from DPW, asked him his opinion. Is that something that they're responsible for maintaining? Is it something that if they are responsible for maintaining it, should they be out there cleaning it up? He told me he was gonna go take a look at it, and if it's something that the town feels is the responsibility for them to clean up, that he and I would have a conversation about that. But Scott was saying the reason that the flooding happens on the northern end of that parking lot is because that's where the water flows, since there's no culvert to go, the water to go through anymore in the drainage ditch. And that if that culvert was reestablished, then it would probably keep that area high and dry moving forward. You know, probably a little fill just to fill in the ruts, but that would be it. So more to come on that.
Do you have anything to add? Or did you basically?
No, I did the
cover
same
it?
thing. I
Okay.
met
Yeah.
Alan Brooks down there and we found the culverts, or what used to be the culverts. I
Yeah,
called Randy Brown
okay,
and he said he was gonna look into it. He has somebody that was gonna go down there tomorrow potentially.
okay, good.
They might be able to clean them out.
Okay, great.
But he's gonna get back to me.
Okay. So, sorry, switching back over to budget.
Yeah, so if I can talk about land, the land budget, the land management budget,
Mhm.
not just trail. We have a budget. Last year we had 4,600. It looks like we're probably not going to be spending all of that just because of time restraints. This coming year, we have 3,700. And I want to make sure that we're utilizing this money. And I went to the open space plan and I checked the town conservation lands. And I basically found 4 pieces of property that have parking access that the Concom has jurisdiction over. One is Granville Gorge, another one is New England National Scenic Trail that's over by Rising Hill Corner. Another one is North Con Conservation Area, and the other one is the Sofinowski Preserve. So I was thinking to sort of spread the weight, spread the responsibility, that maybe the Conservation Committee members might want to adopt like one piece of parcel and go to these pieces of land like once a month to go on the trails, check the trailhead to see, is there anything that needs to be maintained? Signages, just the surface of the trails, maps, or what have you. If you guys would be interested in that and coming back to the committee during the meetings and just saying, hey, I noticed this, like, should we use the budget money to fix this? So we're kind of like up to date on things and we don't fall
I'm all
behind on
for
the trail, on the land maintenance.
Which
Great
properties?
idea.
So the properties that I found are the Granville Gorge, New England Trail, Scenic Trail, North Pond, and the Sofinowski Preserve.
I will take North Pond because I'm there. all the time.
Quick comment, if I could.
Yeah.
Bert Hanson, 153 North Vining Road. I live next door to the Sofinowski. Trails there could really use some work.
Mhm.
Okay.
Very rocky. There's a lot of areas over this water, runoff.
Yeah.
that needs to
Okay.
be addressed. And also the parking lot, that little portion of North Vining Road isn't much of a hill, but it's enough of a grade where water runs down the road into the Sofinowski parking lot and washes it out. Washes out the
Isn't there a
snow.
little swale on the side as you're
Yeah.
coming down the hill too? Is
Yeah,
that empty into it?
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, just wanted to say, from personal experience.
Okay.
That would be great.
Well, I think that the trails, obviously, there's funds available. I also know there's a couple of Eagle Scouts that are looking for projects. So
Okay.
we may have some indentured servants that can help us there.
Don't forget you have gift accounts.
What do we have in the gift accounts? Do we know?
I'd have to look them up, but I'm pretty sure you have one for Sofinowski.
Okay, if we can know that amount for the next meeting, that would be great. Okay, all of those.
And I'll take a hike up there, check out that property.
So you own Sofinowski.
Okay,
Excellent.
perfect.
I'll do the gorge.
Awesome.
And what was the other one?
The other
Where are we
one.
going, Dave?
New England Trail.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's the one I
New
put
England
the sign
Trail.
on, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rising.
Rising
Corners?
I know where it is, sure.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay, so Sofinowski is Brian.
Yeah.
Brian D. Gorge is Marisa. And NET is Jerry.
very good.
okay.
Sounds like my
See,
mom.
usually when you
Thank you,
don't show up
guys.
for meetings, you get signed up for stuff. People that aren't here like that. Hey, listen, I'm gonna deviate from this. I'm gonna go to old business really quick because we still have Ryan sitting on the call.
Oh,
So
sorry,
Let's get
Ryan.
Ryan off the call. Hey, Ryan, certificate of compliance for lots 7 and 21 at the Greens.
Yeah, I just, no worries, working on other things. I didn't know if a site visit was held on that yet.
No, we were reaching out to you to schedule that and nothing happened. So can we make that happen?
Sure, sounds like I couldn't have made it anyway. So, yeah, whatever availability you guys have, try to make that work.
Why don't we pick a day right now? All right, that works for everybody. And I can just tell you from my personal experience, there's nothing I can do this week. It would have to be, or this weekend, it would have to be next week for me, but I'm only 1 out of 7. Can we do Monday, the 27th?
That works for me.
Yeah. How early?
What time's good for you, Marissa? I know you, are you available? Are you in
If
town?
it were very early in the day, I could move some stuff around.
All right, can you do it early in the morning, right?
Yes. Anytime.
Marissa, what's early in the day for you? I mean, I'm retired, that's noon for me.
6 AM.
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, could we do 8? I know that's kind of early, but that's probably.
Yeah, we can do it. You can get.
Can Ryan do it?
Yeah, can Ryan, can you be there? Or 8:30, I can try to.
You meant 10:30, right?
I'll
what
get
day?
tired.
The 27th at 8:30?
Okay.
Is that okay, Ryan?
Yes, that's great.
All right.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right. The request for an extension, 3-year extension for 13 North Pond.
We'd be requesting a continuance for that tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody want to make a motion to continue?
I'll make a motion to continue that.
All right, second.
Second.
Brian Drennan, seconds. Marissa.
Aye.
Dave McWilliams, aye. So continued. Thank you, Ryan. I
All
think,
right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you taking time out of your personal lives for a special meeting tonight. Thank you.
yeah, no problem, but
Thank you,
appreciate
Ryan.
it.
Yep.
Hi, Ryan.
Bye, Ryan.
All right, so circling back around, was there anything on your list regarding?
So I did write conservation land signage. I was somewhat referring to the North Pond. There definitely needed to be signage happening. I'm not sure if there needs to be, and if we can even do it, put like a violation, like number in dollars, like if you violate any of these rules, it's like a $300 fine. Do we even have?
I mean, I think we would have to find out what a fine is for littering before we would put anything
Littering or
up.
the fire, you know what I
I
mean?
mean, what's the enforcement mechanism?
I don't
then,
know.
though?
It's
I
just
mean,
a
is that just
deterrent,
fear
I
mark?
think,
Yeah, it
Somebody
might be,
enforcing
but
it,
like, if we put it on the sign, we kind of have to back it up. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, is that the tone the town wants to have on the sign?
Well, again, going back to that meeting we had with Fish and Game in the fall, we talked about an MOU with the state to give our police officers the same enforcement powers for state fences.
Right,
You know, Lieutenant Banish was looking into that. I think they said they had one with town of Ludlow, so had informal conversations. But I can put it back on the front burner because Chief Landis and I will be going out on the boat. And North Pond is one of the areas we're gonna be looking at.
Well, I guess
Along
the
with
question
different
specifically is, do the police have the ability to levy fines on that property?
They can enforce town bylaws
Right,
or ordinances. They can't enforce state,
okay,
okay? So I'd have to get clarification from Chief Landis, you know, and if in fact, are we going to enter into that agreement with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which I think we should,
mhm,
because they expressly prohibit fires,
right.
you know? So I think it'd be.
Well, they're not gonna come patrol it anyways with law
No,
enforcement,
no,
so
but-
we may as well
but-
have the
but,
ability to do that.
Chief Landis is going to start having a regular, I shouldn't say consistent patrol, but a patrol of that area. And fires would be one of the ones that they would be tackling. They did cut down all the ropes and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
So they would be monitoring, you know, when an officer sees, you know.
Okay,
I mean, some people said they're not, said the officers have turned a blind eye to. I don't believe that's the case, not from the officers I've talked. But
all right, well,
we have it on our agenda for our next meeting. Like I said, this week, Chief and I will be meeting
okay,
and we'll see.
well, if you could just let us
Get
know,
back to you with some concrete. Things.
great, thanks. So we're gonna hold off on any fining on the signs, but let's look at the signs.
Yeah, I would like to see this one.
Last thing on the agenda is LPP updates.
Yes,
What's up?
I was on vacation for your last meeting and LMC's last meeting, but I did
Other
replay
stuff
both
happened, you
tapes.
missed some good stuff.
I replayed your tape, so I got it.
Damn it, that's right, you guys are taping this stuff now.
You can't fool them.
The highlight of the meeting of LMC was once again 141 Congamon Road. A lot of discussion on that, a lot of discussion on the old Louis B's issue. The July 4th parade, boat parade will be the 2nd of July, Saturday, 5 o'clock. A band will be playing at Babs Beach 3 to 5. The rain date is Sunday. And then I'm gonna let Jerry tell you about the fairly good news coming out of Suffield about sewers.
Right, they were interested once again in connecting up to the sewer system. And they're weighing their options. I'm not sure how far they'll get with it, but it would be nice to be able to sewer the other side of the lake. And hasn't really come to any kind of fruition over the last couple of years. So the fact that they're in talks with a few people is good news. And they've hired an engineering firm, done some studies, have options. We had done that 15 years ago. We helped them out do that, and it never just came to anything else. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and at some point, but one of the options is to tie into us. Okay, we have the capacity. We're only using less than 175K a day, and we have a 500K a day capacity. So that is a possibility. A second possibility is they build their own, and the third possibility is they tie it into way down the road and on the river where the Hood place is. There's like a treatment plant there. The second one I didn't describe well, but to build their own little infrastructure right there in that area, which is really expensive, millions and millions. So I'm not sure what they'll end up doing, but I hope they do.
Good.
And another item that was discussed there was, one of the members mentioned why there was no owner information on this year's LPP forms. And
What do you mean owner information?
they had wanted to have a line that's,
Address?
yeah, owner information. I told them I would bring it up. So Norm did, oh, you weren't there. Steve. You didn't hear that part.
What, all the forms go out with a sticker that has the owner name, their mailing address, the property address, their phone number, their email, and their code, their street code.
Right.
All of them have stickers on it that has that information.
Right.
And there's a little caveat that says, if you, any of this information is different than what's on the sticker to the right, then make the changes.
The issue, Gene, is, at one time, we thought we were gonna have the name and address of all of the boat owners. on
Okay,
the
if,
form.
okay, the
So if you
form
don't
was,
live at that address and you got a boat
Right.
there, we would be able to backtrack.
okay, so the form was approved prior to it being sent out in February. And now, if the LMC wants the form to include the name and address, the registration number, then there'll be enough room just for like 2 boats on there. So,
Perhaps,
know.
perhaps in the cover letter, we could mention something like that. If you do this, please fill this in here. And that way.
yeah, see,
That form was.
Well, I
approved.
mean, is it the concern of changing the current form or making it too long? I mean, is LMC willing to provide a mock-up of what you're looking
Yeah.
for to see how feasible it is?
feel free.
I'm sure we can do that.
Yeah.
I think we had one at one time.
In fact, you guys did last year and
Oh.
we pretty much adopted it. and-
Let me get, Norm, did you get that list that I sent you?
Yes.
Okay,
Do you need me to do research?
well, yeah.
Take pictures?
They were
Okay.
hoping for it.
But I'm sure we
What
can,
list are we talking
we
about?
we
Gene?
can
Okay.
probably accommodate,
I,
that
let me
information.
get the form, you guys can look at that one.
Sure.
Okay,
So it only has the address of the dock
Of the
owner.
owner. Let's
Of the
say you
owner of
have
the dock?
someone else parked there. The LMC
Okay.
wanted to know who that was for accountability. Let's say I have my buddy parking his boat.
Right,
there. They
and you
want my
don't-
buddy's
Right.
address.
Here's the form. What I did was took a list of everybody that I sent out an application to that have, as of that day, not paid for their dock, boat, or whatever. And there's a letter I sent with that, that was signed
Exactly.
by Dave and
Mhm.
the harbor master, the chief, to send a notice out to these people saying, pay up or else. So I was kind of thinking that you were going to go through that list like you did for the survey last year and let me know if indeed those properties warranted that letter.
Now, Norm, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this was just for accountability. So that we could check boats when we check them for stickers and things like that.
Right.
Would it suffice to be able just to go to the owner, the main person on the list, and say, whose boat is that? Would that be something we could do if we had to?
all right.
or-
So, listen, the letter went out in February. It's not going out till February again,
Right.
right? So we're not doing anything today. So if LMC wants to see something different, why don't you guys mock up what you would like to see? And then we can look at it at a future meeting.
Will do.
All right? Thanks.
Can I ask a question? And it might be a stupid question. Where do we put the stickers on the boat? I tried to find it, like directions, and I don't know where. My sister asked me and I
I
couldn't
know, I
answer.
put mine on the bow on
Should
the
there
same
be,
site as the registration.
and maybe Norm, seeing how you go and look, should there be one spot where this sticker on a boat goes, like in the motor side, so you can see when they're parked, see the dock sticker and the boat sticker, like kind of,
That's actually,
facing out?
that's a good question because
I-
a lot of guys cover their boats and you
Right.
can't see it. Sometimes it's on the pontoon, sometimes
Right.
you don't know if
And-
there's a sticker at all.
and if we agree on a spot,
Yeah.
maybe
I
make
believe
a
in the
drawing or something.
LPP paperwork, it says where it's supposed to be, but I can't
Thought I-
Can you just confirm that? I
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like on my ATV, when I go to different states, and you get a registration, you're specifically told where to put it. Just
Yep.
like with your car's registration, right? It has to be in the window, or the sticker. So I would imagine there's probably something, if you could just dig up where that is.
I thought there was too, Norm, and when I checked to make sure, because I worked with this like 12 years ago, I couldn't find it for some reason, so that's why I'm asking.
Okay,
Maybe it's not. I don't know if there was an update and it just wasn't put in.
I'll dig again.
Thank you.
All right, that's the last thing on the agenda.
Thanks, Norm.
You bet.
Anybody want to go home?
I'll make a motion, adjourn.
Say it. All in favor? Your voice vote aye.
Bye.